Want to call to order today's Finance Committee meeting for July the 21st, 2015. Item number 1.
Consider approval of the Finance Committee minutes of July 7th, 2015.
Do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments 7/2/2015 to 7/10/2015.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, sir. The purchasing committee met earlier today, and we found out that we had an issue with running checks. So there was no claims list to review. And so 2 weeks from now, we'll do 2 weeks' worth of claims, and we'll bring back a recommendation at that time.
All right. So with that being said, can we just skip to the next item?
Right.
All right. We'll move to the next item. Item number 3.
Consider approval to purchase upgrades to our Microsoft Office software to the latest version in the amount of $70,000 or take other necessary action.
Chris Cummins.
Chairman, Council, this is just to seek approval to purchase upgrades to Microsoft Office as budgeted in the 2016 capital budget for IT.
All right. Any questions?
Chris, we're moving from 2007.
2007, the current version is 2013.
Okay. So Windows 8's.
Oh, this is not the operating system. We're staying on Windows 7 for the operating system. We're not ready to move up yet.
Okay.
This is for Excel, PowerPoint.
Correct.
Word.
Excel, Word, and PowerPoint.
Just curious. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. Item 3 passes. Now item number 4, please.
Consider approval to replace obsolete or worn computers and printers up to $60,000 as part of the city's tech refresh program or take other necessary action.
Mr. Cummins.
This item is also budgeted in 2016 IT capital budget. Last year, we began getting the very oldest computers caught up. This year, we're continuing that. We're trying to get to a base, and at the end of this year, we'll be at that base where then we can just take a look at roughly a quarter of the computers and printers to replace each year so that we keep our technology updated and current.
All right. Any discussion or questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. Item 4 passes. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval to sell stock dedicated to the non-uniform employees retirement system administered by Computershare Trust Company for the Principal Financial Group in the approximate amount of $80,000 and seek repayment from the city for all dividends paid from 12/9/02 to present in the approximate amount of $14,000 and transfer said funds to the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund to be distributed in the excess revenue fund among all active employees or take other necessary action.
All right. Ms. Bates.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee. Back in 1984, the city of Muskogee moved its retirement assets from the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund to the Principal Financial Group. At that time, they were Bankers Life, but they changed the name to Principal Financials Group. We terminated our contracts. We had 2 contracts with them, and we terminated those contracts on June 30th of 1996, and all assets of the plan were transferred. We went back to the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund. In December of 2014, last December, we found out that Principal Financial Group had retained some of our assets and were not transferred when we left them, and they when they became a stockholding company, they invested those assets into stock. Well, the city cannot own stock, and all assets of the plan should have been terminated and sent to the OMRF back in 1996. We were in a lawsuit with them from 1996 to 2001 because of numerous mistakes they made on employees' retirement accounts, and we reached a settlement agreement which had to be agreed by all the employees. The city council had to sign off on it, and we thought that was the end of it. The city started receiving dividend checks in 2002, it looks like, and those funds were deposited and have been kept separate in a fund here in a local bank. So what, we took this to the retirement committee, and what they're asking is that the city sell the stock, because the city attorney said this, we're not allowed to own stock as a city, to sell the stock and get the money that, the interest that those funds have earned over the years, and send it to the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund to be placed in an account, it's called an excess revenue fund. And that account is just, I think it's distributed 4 times a year, and it's done by seniority, years of service, and salary. So everybody gets a piece of the pie based on years of service and your income. And because of our plan is an IRS qualified plan, that's the only legal way we can do it. There's, the retirement committee looked at several different options of how we could distribute these funds, and after talking to our OMRF representatives, they said legally this is the only way we can do it. And so that's what we're asking for today, is your permission to sell the stock, get the assets of the dividends, and send it to the OMRF for distribution.
Move for approval.
Okay,
Sure.
Second.
I need to ask a question.
Sure.
When you say that a city is not allowed to own stock, we can temporarily own it until we sell it? Is that the way I understood it?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
What it is that the city invested in the New York stock market, which is prohibited, okay? Especially retirements, typically retirements, you're not eligible to be invested in New York Stock Exchange. So that's where all this is coming from. We got legal advice. They gave us an opinion that, we don't have a written opinion, but there's some opinion from the city attorney's office as well as OMRF, which is our retirement fund holder. And so, Matt, you got anything you want to say, or Pam?
The reason a city can't, the reason the city can't own stock is because stocks are volatile and there's a risk of loss. So, under law, we have to put in something where we're not going to have that risk of loss because it's taxpayer funded. So this should have been liquidated and put into a approved investment back when it was initially done. But that's why we think we need to immediately correct it so that we are in compliance and we don't have a risk of loss. And I believe since we've discovered this, there has been some loss of funds because it was being held that way.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second, so at this time, roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. Item 5 passes, and now we'll go to item number 6.
Consider approval to receive donated funds to the Muskogee Fire Department in the amount of $5,216.24, or take other necessary action.
Chief Tatum.
Chairman, committee, when I ask you to accept these donated funds, some of these donated funds were in place when I made chief 8 years ago, and some of it was as recent as 4 years ago. And in talking with the city attorney's office, we just felt like it'd be a lot cleaner situation to bring it to council for acceptance so that I can put these funds to good use.
All right. Any questions?
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 6 passes. Item number 7.
Consider approval of the contractual service agreement associated with the collection of recyclables at the Recycle Drop-Off Center located at 120 Iola Street between the City of Muskogee, Oklahoma and Encore, or take other necessary action.
Recognizing Ms. Martin.
Chairman, council. Basically, this is just a renewal without any changes to their contract agreement, and I recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Want to acknowledge the recycle gifts that you gave us today. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. Item 7 passes. Item number 8.
Consider approval of a resolution declaring the parcel of property located on the corner of South 7th and Kalamazoo Street as surplus property, and authorize the sale of the property to Claudie Brooks in the amount of $801, or take other necessary action.
Matt.
Mr. Chairman, this is a piece of property which was, the city was approached to declare surplus. It is zoned R1. It's 14,000 square feet, which makes it a buildable lot. And as such, our rules require that it be posted for bid. We received 3 bids. The highest was $801, posted by Claudie Brooks. As such, I would recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. Item 8 passes. Item number 9.
Consider approval of a resolution declaring the parcel of property located at 972 Summit Street as surplus property and authorize the sale of the property to Dale Keplinger and Robert Dube in the amount of $1,705 or take other necessary action.
Matt?
Mr. Chairman, this again was another piece of property which the city was approached to declare surplus. It is zoned R1. It's 7,250 square feet, which makes it a buildable lot, and as such was posted for bids. We received 3 bids. The high bidder was Dale Keplinger for $1,705, and we have followed all procedures, and I would recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. Item 9 passes. Item number 10.
Consider approval of action by the City of Muskogee Foundation selecting Clothier and Company, CPA, as auditor for the foundation in accordance with Section 3-2 of the foundation bylaws.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, as you know, the City of Muskogee Foundation's bylaws require that we approve their selection of an auditor. And so the foundation board is recommending Clothier and Company, CPA firm, to actually do their audit and conduct their audit. And Section 3.2 of their bylaws require that City Council approves that, of their selection.
Questions, comments?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes. That was the final item, so the Finance Committee is adjourned.
And we'll now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Item number 1.
Consider approval of the Public Works Committee minutes of July 7th, 2015.
Additions or changes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
And motion carries. Item number 2.
Hold a public hearing on the request from Caw Valley Engineering to consider approval of an ordinance closing the 16-foot utility easement lying in the vacated alley between Blocks 5 and 12 Pickens Edition, more particularly described in the ordinance, or take other necessary action.
We are now in the public hearing. Mr. Garvin?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the applicant, Caw Valley Engineering, is requesting approval to close a 16-foot alley. The alley is located in Blocks 5 and 12 of Pickens Edition. The reason for the closure is to allow a grocery store to be located on the property. This is the location of Aldi Grocery. At the subdivision meeting, it was found that AT&T has an existing line within the alley. However, that line is being abandoned, and there are no other utilities located within that easement. It's been recommended for approval by Subdivision Review Committee and Planning Commission. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Garvin? Seeing that no one has signed up to speak to this issue, we're going to close the public hearing. Now I'll entertain a motion. Or
Move for approval as Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 3.
Receive update on the City of Muskogee Housing and Rehabilitation and Revitalization Program, Foundation 400 Demolition Program, and the City of Muskogee Housing Incentive Program.
Mr. Garvin, tell me something good.
I'm going to give you an update on all 3 programs. I'll try to keep it as quick as possible. I'm going to start with the Housing Rehabilitation and Revitalization Program. As you know, this is funded through a grant from the City of Muskogee Foundation in the amount of $300,000. Some of the requirements is you must own and occupy the house. It is an owner-occupied program. You must fall or meet a low to very low income bracket and located within a target area. And I'll go over the target areas in just a second. The outside of the house must be clean and well maintained. In other words, if there's any code violation, high weeds, grass, trash, we can reject the application. We can also reject it if the cost of repairs exceeds the value of the structure. All the applications are ranked based on a point system, and the funds are dispersed as according to what's available. Commercial and rental properties cannot apply, because this is a owner-occupied program. And the maximum amount is $20,000 per structure, and it is for exterior repairs only. What qualifies for exterior repairs is roofs, painting, siding, foundation, structural repairs, doors, windows, weatherization, driveways. When we started the program, we was looking at the regional town site, because that's where the majority of the older homes are located that need the repairs. There was some areas a little bit beyond the regional town site that we did include in the target area. We broke it down into 10 areas, and currently we have completed areas 1 through 6. We are currently repairing houses in Area 7, and we are accepting applications in Area 8. Area 8 is basically between 24th and Main Street, Martin Luther King, and Shawnee. And again, that's where we are accepting applications currently. Just an overview or status of the program since it began. In Area 1, we had 64 applications. 47 of those met the requirements and was repaired. Area 2, we had 26 applications, 21 was repaired. Area 3, 29 applications, with 24 being repaired. Area 4 was 50 applications, 34 of those was repaired. Area 5, 64, and 43 repaired. Area 6, we had 38, 21 repaired. Area 7, we had 23, we've repaired 10, and we've got 10 more to repair within Area 7. Currently, we have repaired 200 structures since this program began. Area 6, we've received 16 applications, and we're going to continue to accept applications till this time next year. As far as the FY 14-15 year, the one we're currently closing out, we've repaired 17 structures at a total cost of $269,480, which is an average cost of $15,852. As some of you are aware, Mission Serve is currently in town. We have set aside $25,000 of this funding to buy material. From what I understand, they've got around 170, 180 young adults working on the structures. They're providing the labor, we're providing the material. If you take the total cost that we spent plus the $25,000 set aside for Mission Serve, it's $294,480, which leaves a balance of $5,520, which we will have a cost for filing of liens and publications. So that $5,000 will be a little less than what we'll be turning back. And two, it'll depend on how much money Mission Serve spends. We don't know for sure what they're going to spend in material, but we have 25 available for them. If you look at the program since the beginning, the 200 structures, we've spent over $3.3 million so far repairing those 200 structures. And the average cost since the beginning has been $16,574. Here's some structures that was repaired under this last grant cycle, before and after. And that's just some of Mission Serve statement. Again, they are in town this week making the repairs. Any questions on the housing program before I go to the demolition program?
Gary, some of the siding, is it vinyl or some, is it
Yes.
lap board? Most of the repairs?
Most of it's vinyl. If the siding can be saved, for example, some of the wood siding, then they would scrape and paint it.
Mhm.
In most cases, they was better off just replacing it with vinyl siding.
Okay, thanks.
Gary, just one observation. What are we going to do with the urban renewal area? I see in the Area 8, the URA is included in Area 8, and so are we going to offer incentives for folks in the URA to rehab their
Well, where
homes
we
or
would
not?
rather, under the incentive program, we'd rather they participate in it to build a house in another location
see.
and take advantage of it. And we have one applicant actually doing that, and I'll talk about it
Oh,
in just
okay.
a minute. Any more questions? Okay, on the demolition program, Foundation 400. We started the demolition in February of this year, and you can see by each month the number of structures that was demolished. As of July the 15th, we've demolished 100 structures. I think actually we're at 105 today, but when I did this report, it was 100 structures. Total cost to demolish those 100 structures was $279,639. Average cost being $2,796. If you'll notice, that average cost is much lower than previously. One good thing we did when we went out for bids on these structures, we did it by square footage rather than by structure. Previously, it was an average of 3,600 to demolish a structure.
It's a lump sum.
Yes, a lump sum price. By doing
opposed
it
to
by
unit
square
price.
footage, it has reduced the price quite a bit. So we'll be able to tear more houses down than what we anticipated with the funding we have. And it's being funded through a grant from the foundation, plus it's being matched through a CIP, Capital Improvement Plan tax that was approved by the citizens. Just an FYI that during the FY 2014-15, the inspection department has issued 252 demolition permits. Now that includes the Foundation 400 program on demolition permits, Community Development Block Grant, which is another demolition program we have going on. City of Muskogee was help funding both of those because we was matching on both, and individual property owners. The individual property owners, there was 63 of those that was demolished by individuals, which is a lot more than in the past. Usually we have very few property owners demolish their own property. Here's some before and after pictures of some of the structures that was demolished. Any questions on the demolition program before I move to the incentive program? Okay. The Housing Incentive Program. This was also funded through a grant from the City of Muskogee Foundation in the amount of $300,000. The incentive program can provide cash rebates for the construction of new single-family homes built on infill lots within the city limits of Muskogee. We have some additional incentives that may also apply, which will be waiving building permit fees and inspection fees. We can also provide a reduction in the water, sewer, and stormwater rates that's equal to the senior rates for a period not to exceed 1 year. And any lot that the city has available, if it's a buildable lot, we will make that lot available at no cost with the condition that a new single-family dwelling be built up on the property. The new dwelling must comply with all the building codes adopted by the city. It must be built on site, and it must contain 2 or more bedrooms. The program also requires that the builder buy all of his material local and use local contractors, subcontractors. The rebate portion is based on a percentage depending on the cost of the sale price of the house or the cost of construction of the house. And the maximum amount of the rebate is to not exceed $25,000. We do place a mortgage on the property. It's a 5-year mortgage. That mortgage is reduced by 20% each year. Again, they have to be built on infill lots, and the infill lot means vacant land within a built-up area that was previously developed with the structure. There is an exception to that. If it's an area where there was no structure built, but the average age of homes within the area or within the neighborhood are at least 40 years or older, then it would still qualify as being an infill lot. There was $300,000 that was funded. The maximum amount of the rebate is $25,000, so we could do 12 incentives for 12 single-family dwellings. Currently, we have 9 that have obtained building permits and are participating. And I've got the list of the addresses and either the owner or the owner and or builder. Where the manager was talking about the urban renewal area, that first one, 323 Douglas Street. Alfred Simpson's current house is within the urban renewal area. He's building a new house to move from the urban renewal area to this house and taking advantage of the incentive program. Louis Slape's building several. He has one that he's building for an individual. The other he will build and have for sale. The last one on Muskogee Street, the Patel, he's building that one for his mom and dad. We currently have 4 that's under construction, and I apologize for the pictures. It was pouring down rain that day, so they're not very good pictures. But there is 4 of the structures that are currently under construction. To close on this, again, it was a $300,000 amount. We have 9 projects, $25,000 each, so we got $225,000 set aside, which only leaves us 3 rebates available. So if you know of anyone who's interested in the program, we do have 3. It is a first come, first served basis. The way we do it, once the building permit is issued, that's when we set the money aside. So, glad to answer your questions.
I'm sorry, Gary, there's no targeted area for this program,
No,
right?
it's
This is anywhere in the
within
city?
as long as it's
Okay.
an infill lot, meets the definition
Okay.
of an infill lot.
As long as it meets the definition of an infill line.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is an update. As you know, we adopted a strategic plan back last year, and one of our core goals was to enhance our quality of life, promoting clean, safe, and desired communities, targeting redevelopment areas. And so we're doing everything that we set out to do last year. And demolishing these identified, dilapidated, and derelict structures is something that's high on our priority list. And so I just wanted to give you an update to make sure you're fully informed about how we're tracking with the strategic plan. That's what this update is doing. And we'll be providing future updates with police and fire and the other operating departments as we move forward this year.
Gary?
Yes.
Is this part of that 400 houses that we were going to demolish, or is this, how many were we supposed to demolish a month?
We average 17 a month.
Okay. And the rain kind of slowed probably some of that down, didn't it?
It did, but however, if you look, some of the months he didn't get 17, but some months he got more than 17. He's still actually above schedule.
Okay.
He's actually completed all the houses for July
All right.
already.
I was just wondering if he was staying on track. And I've been by some of these lots, and looks a lot different there now, so.
We've been very fortunate. He has basically kept on schedule and ahead of schedule. It did slow us down on grading some of the lots, but he could still demolish it, get the debris moved off, come back once it dried up and grade the lots.
Thank y'all.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I know that several of the residents in the Ward 4 area are so grateful that these programs are taking place, and they've been very complimentary, Mr. Garvin, about the work that's being done. So I thought I'd share that with you, that they are appreciative to everything that's going on, and to say thank you.
This is, and again, this is a very good beneficial programs. I mean, there's 3 different components to it. I want to thank the Muskogee Foundation for funding these programs. This is definitely a quality of life, and this will have long-time benefits to the city of Muskogee. So, but I do want to extend my appreciation to the entire Muskogee staff for, there's a lot of work and continual efforts in this, and it couldn't be done without the city continuing in this manner. Thank you.
Any other comments, discussion? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 4, Pam.
Consider approval to accept a sewer line easement from John and Lisa Baker located in Lot 5, Block 2 of Mills subdivision in the city and county of Muskogee, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute any documents related thereto or take any necessary action.
Mr. Kingston.
Yes, during the construction of the East Side Interceptor project, it became necessary to have a slight change in the alignment, and we had to go to the Bakers to get a little additional easement to keep it within easement, and they've already signed the easement. We're just asking that you accept it so we can go ahead and get it filed, and recommend approval.
Thank you, sir.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
And the motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval of awarding lowest bid to Glover and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $837,995 for the base bid plus additive alternate number 1 to the Rehabilitate Davis Field Airport Runway 4-22.
Mr. Root.
I want to start, we're going to tag team you a little bit today. I want to start by introducing our new airport manager. R.J. Harris has been selected, and this was his second day, so I figured it's about time he get up here and present something. So he's going to explain the project. We have Garber here, Mr. Caleb Coltrane as well, to answer any additional questions. I mean, R.J. may not know everything about this yet, but this is a very vital project for us, and you will see that most of the funding is coming from the FAA and OAC for this project. So, RJ, what I'd like RJ to do is tell you a little bit about himself. You know, if you have any questions, you know, quiz him. He's good at interviewing. No problem there. So I'll give you a shot at it, and then he'll talk about the rehab.
Harris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, John. My name is RJ Harris, and I'm the new airport manager at Muskogee Davis Airport. It's my honor and pleasure to be able to accept that job. My background is that I'm air traffic and airspace management officer for the Oklahoma Army National Guard on the military side. And so now this is my civilian job. I'm looking forward to really getting into Muskogee Davis Airport and moving it forward and increasing its potential to bring jobs to the city of Muskogee. Get right in here and talk about the runway resurfacing project. We're talking about runway 422, which is commonly referred to as the crossing runway. And a couple of the reasons why it's so important is because the main runway, 13 and 3031, it is not lined up with the wind, the prevailing wind enough for it to stand alone on its own. So we have a crosswind runway for when the wind's coming in from that for the opposite direction. So for that reason, we really need to be able to make sure that we have this runway resurfaced and usable for the near term. Another, and probably the bigger reason of the two also, is because the main runway, 13 and 31, is supposed to be coming down here in a few years to get a major resurfacing done on it. And when that does happen, we'll need to lean heavily on runway 422 for while the main runway is getting redone. I do have some numbers to go over with you real quick. The total cost of the project, including oversight from our aviation project management team, which is under contract with the city, is $937,845, and that includes $840,000, or 90% of the project funding, coming from the FAA. So that's very important that we be able to accept that funding from the FAA to be able to keep our runways at the airport moving forward for the next several years. Also, of that, we have a 5% share from the city of Muskogee at $51,168. That includes our 5% share plus insurance on the project. And then we have another 5% of the project coming from the Oklahoma Aeronautical Commission. So as you can see, the major bulk of the expense of this project is being borne by the Federal Aviation Administration, and another piece of it coming from the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission. And with that, I'll just open up to your questions.
Yeah, there was a question earlier during the purchasing committee regarding the timetable, project completion date.
Right. The project. Wait, ladies and gentlemen, real quick, this is Caleb Coltrane from Garver, who is our contract aviation consultant for project at the airport.
Okay.
Nice to meet everybody. The project timeline, once this is approved to award the contract to Glover, the grant administration documents will go to the FAA. It typically takes them 3 to 4 weeks to turn that around and get you your grant money in the bank where you can draw that money down. And so after that month and all the papers are signed, then it just depends on Glover's schedule. If they can start right away, it'll start right away. If they have another project going on and want to wait a couple weeks before they get started, then we'll wait and work with their timetable. But once it starts, it'll take 35 days for construction.
Okay, so 45 days.
Right,
on the
not
perfect
very
world.
long.
Oh, I see.
And as you said, this is a crosswind runway. The main runway will still be open through the whole duration of the project, so it'll have a pretty minimal effect on the airport traffic.
I have a question also on the funding sources. I see there's two entities that are contributing 5%, and the amounts are different on those. Is there a good explanation that I can't figure out?
And the reason for that is there's one pay item in the project that's not eligible for FAA reimbursement. It's called third-party insurance, and it covers the airport and the engineer during the duration of the project if they're out there and something happens. And that's the cost borne by the contractor, but the FAA will not pay for 90% of that. So basically, you take the whole project amount, subtract out that few $1,000s, and then you split up the 90%, the 5% OAC, and 5% city, and then you add the ineligible cost back on the city. That's why it's a little bit more than the OAC's 5% cost.
That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Mr. Just for public knowledge, Glover is who you're recommending, but we did get 2 bids, and you're recommending Glover?
Yes, Vice Mayor. Yes, Vice Mayor. We did receive 2 bids, and the Glover was the lower bid.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
We're not going to ask him 20 questions as where he's from, what he does. All right. That's fine. I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
And motion carries. Item number 6.
Consider approval of awarding contract to the lowest and best bidder, Dirt Work Done Right LLC, in the amount of $2.65 per square foot for the Community Development Block Grant Demolition Project, bid group 36, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. This is a community development block grant funded project. It is a demolition project also, and we had 3 bidders. We did send out 42 notices. It was also published twice as required by the Community Development Block Grant and Department of Commerce. It was 20 days in advance of the bid opening, which was July the 8th. We received, had 7 contractors attend the mandatory pre-bid meeting also. We had bids from Arc Wrecking at $3.65 a square foot, American Demolition at $2.85 a square foot, and then Dirt Work Done Right LLC at $2.65 a square foot. And staff is recommending to award to Dirt Work Done Right at $2.65 a square foot.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 7.
Consider approval of an amendment to Council Policy 4-1, Travel Policy, or take any necessary action.
Ms. Epperson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Several times I have been before you to present to you options for a revised travel policy. Last time I was before you, we had discussed expanding the travel committee to include 4 other members of the committee. That did happen. Myself, Councilmember Langston, Councilmember Reed, and 4 other employees met. We had discussed the new policy or the revised policy in depth. One of the things that we had discussed for portal-to-portal transportation was to restrict portal-to-portal transportation, limited to 10 miles from any border within the city limits. In addition to that, any person who responded to any emergency call would be considered eligible for the portal-to-portal on a frequent basis. That frequent basis was discussed 2 to 3 times per week to be considered for the portal-to-portal use. Also, an employee may take a city vehicle home on the day they are required to attend an after-hours meeting or event. And in those types of situations and the other types of portal-to-portal, city manager approval would be required. A couple other things, housekeeping items were addressed in the policy, clarifying just a little bit of language, some documents, and from the policy we had omitted animal control vehicles and emergency response vehicles to include emergency management within this policy revision. Happy to answer any questions.
When you say after-hours events, give me an example.
Sure. Water distribution oftentimes is called in for water line breaks. So if the water line crews come in after hours, say at 8 o'clock at night, and work until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, they would be able to take those vehicles home.
Yeah. The only reason why
Didn't you mean events?
events. The reason why I was saying that is because the first thing that popped in my head was like, what kind of events are we talking about? Because sometimes there's different beverages sold at some of these events, and
the events. Understood. Okay, I'm sorry.
You're talking about if they get called into work or something like that.
That is on the portal-to-portal.
Okay.
The after-hours meetings or events would be one where you are representing the city, and if you are representing the city in your capacity, you would not be able to have an alcoholic beverage, and I can think of
or training. If they
Right.
drove a city vehicle to a training of
Right.
in Oklahoma City, we wouldn't. Well, we would not allow them to. But if they had a drink, we wouldn't allow them to get in our vehicle and drive around town.
Okay.
And any of that stuff.
When you said events, I was like, okay, what about this? So I'm good.
Any other questions?
We didn't address that in this policy, correct?
Which part?
The
Alcohol use,
alcoholic
so-
beverages.
Oh, no, we didn't.
I don't,
I think that would be covered under a
I think
separate
state law, I think if someone is
policy.
driving a city vehicle and they have alcohol in their system, the police is gonna deal with that issue. I don't think we need to address it, you know.
I
think
was
it's-
just thinking, events.
I think one of those events would be maybe if an employee was representing the city at the Azalea Banner Festival. I don't really know what the exact name of it is, but if the department head, Mark Wilkerson, went to represent the city and he was there discussing city business, then no, he would not be able to consume alcohol, one, because he would be considered reporting for duty, and he would be under the terms of the drug and alcohol testing policy. And in that case, then he would be able to take that vehicle. And if he was going for himself as a visitor, as a participant, then he would not be able to take that vehicle home, and then he could participate in after-hours activities.
I think as a member of the committee, I'd just like to say, one of the reasons that we even started delving into this was just to address the fact that our previous policies said that there was no vehicles allowed outside of the city limits. And that's when we started looking at this. You know, I feel like if we're going to have a rule, we need to uphold it, and nobody was. I mean, well, a lot of people weren't due to previous agreements that had been made, et cetera. And so we just felt like we needed to clean up the ordinance to get it stating what we're actually going to do. And during that time, we worked with several of the employees, and I thank you for getting those people there and for their input to, you know, close up a few other little gaps. So thank you.
The emergency vehicle, the people that get called in, are they allowed to go past that 10 miles?
No, it would be all portal to portal is only 10 miles. So regardless if you are a water line employee, it's only 10 miles.
Okay.
Because all of the after-hours calls that people respond to when they actually come in are on an emergency call-out basis.
Okay. That just caught my mind because I'll keep my mouth shut on what I'm thinking, but I was just worried about that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Will the people who participate or need to participate portal to portal, will they already have the vehicle at home, or they need to come in and get the vehicle and then take the vehicle home?
Most of those participants already have the city vehicle in their use.
Okay.
I can think of one division that only uses those vehicles when they're on standby, which is, I believe, they're a week on call at a time, and they find a means of transportation to the work site, and then use the city vehicle for that week that they're on standby. And then I don't know if they get a ride home or somebody picks them up, but they have means of transportation to and from work during that 1 week that they're to and from, not during the week, of course, because they get to use their city vehicle. The other employees, I believe they've already been using them, so they have the city vehicle here, and that's what they take home every night.
Is event defined in the policy?
No, sir.
I mean, should it be defined for clarity going forward so that we know what an event?
Well, the fact that she said that it has to relate to city business is kind of makes it what it is. I mean, you can't drive it for personal use, so it's got to be a city business. So I'm good with that.
I was just wondering if it needed to be defined for future use, so that if someone else would have picked a policy up and not have the benefit of these minutes, that way they know what an event. I guess you can make that an addendum to say, here's what an event is.
Yes, but then I think you get into the restriction of a lot of different things that may not happen, and you have to come back many times to amend that because there are different events that are added all the time, like the dancing in the district, which I believe is a new event. And I think if we leave it a little bit more broad, it gives the manager authority.
I agree with that. I mean, maybe we could, clear it up from this, with respect to this. Maybe call it like a city-sponsored or a city event or authorized event. A city-authorized event.
I mean, Council Hall, at a point when you say event, that leads to a lot in terms of what is an event.
And Dancing in the District is not a city-sponsored event. I mean, we are helping with it a lot.
I mean, Counselor, I don't speak for you, but I mean.
Well, okay, I know.
We're
We feel it
co-sponsoring
in the
it, yes,
pocketbook.
ma'am.
Yes, I got you. Yeah. But seriously, I mean, are we going to do it for every social event that the city has any association with? I mean,
Well, I think we just have to make a judgment call based on event. I mean, if it's authorized, if it's an authorized city event, then that's something that we need to consider. I mean, we wouldn't allow our employees to participate down in Norman on a, I'll just give you an example, Special Olympics event without it being authorized by the city. We'd have to be okay with the use of that vehicle there to send them down there.
I was trying to ask this question without bringing up a name. Our new facilities director,
Yeah.
that way I don't have to say his name, he lives outside of 10 miles from our deal. Does that mean he won't be able to drive his vehicle home?
Well, I think it depends on how it's measured. I think right now he would be. I think we have 2 employees that may be affected by this policy if we go with it as stated. 10 miles. 10 miles is it 10 miles? According to Google or
As a crow flies or what?
Or as the
we
crow
talked
flies?
about that in
Yeah,
our
from nearest
committee.
border.
We talked about using the city limits so
that would
that
have
it
to
could
be-
be definite, and it's
Yep.
driving miles from wherever you leave the city limits.
Okay, driving miles. Okay.
Driving miles
So-
was
Okay.
what our
Well,
intent was.
I didn't understand that. That's not what I picked up this morning when we had a meeting to discuss it. So
Because our city
driving
limit
miles.
stops at Pilot.
Okay.
And that's more than 10 miles to Wagner.
Well, no, I understand, guys. What I'm saying is that if you say borders,
it
our
says
borders
in
are
the
not
policy,
squared,
yeah.
and so like if you say the nearest border, how do you measure? Is it driving miles from where? What border? So as the crow flies, would that be an appropriate,
No.
Okay.
Nope, she says.
That's what you're going to be driving. I mean, I thought that was kind of my understanding from the meeting, that's why we put in the city limits, because we wanted exact miles, because it's different places, different amounts from wherever you are in the city. I mean, you might be on the east side of town, and you might live only 2 miles outside of town on the west side. You're going to go a lot. So we felt like that was the most uniform way to measure that, and we had to have some sort of parameters.
So 10 miles from the city limits.
Yes.
Okay.
The nearest city limit.
From the nearest city limit.
From when the employee leaves the city limits to get to their home.
Do we know if
you
that's
drive
going to
around.
eliminate any number of employees that may have already been using their vehicles?
I know of two people in particular that it would eliminate, yes.
Or 2 positions.
Yeah, it's
Two
two positions that,
positions?
I mean, there are 2 positions that will be affected by this, is what we gleaned this morning.
They are,
The facilities maintenance manager and the planning director.
No, the
I'm
the
sorry.
planning director would not be considered under the 10-mile. The other person that I can think of is the street superintendent.
Yeah, the street superintendent is critical.
Do we exempt some people from this policy?
Or grandfather anybody in?
No, only collective bargaining employees, police, right?
Police and fire, that would
Yeah.
be not covered, that's
Yeah,
correct.
because they're-
No,
yeah.
I don't know if you're considering the planning director as an exemption, but he would not be considered under the second portion where he would only be eligible to take that vehicle home
Only on the
for
night,
after-hours meetings and
stuff
events,
like that.
if that's what you're referring to, Ms. Langston.
I'm not sure what I was referring to,
Okay.
because I didn't know that that there were going to be any exemptions. I didn't know,
I mean, there-
eliminated a few people.
There are no exemptions. I mean, if we adopt this policy, it's clearly stated, and we've had it vetted, we've had a committee formed, there's been a couple of meetings on this item, and I think that we're at a point where we get clear direction and defend a policy on it. Of course, I have my personal view on it and opinion, but it's a policy decision that you guys are going to have to address. I would like for, to have the authority to make an exception if that's the case, but I don't want the exception to become policy. You understand what I'm
And I
mean
think
by
that's
that?
what
So-
got us to this
so-
point.
But
is
if you
why-
start making exceptions to
Yeah.
it, then it's not really the policy, because then
Yeah.
everybody will say, why can't you make me a exception? So it just keeps you having less headaches.
No, I agree with that. I mean, there are instances where, we're gonna need to do something, and if I gotta come back to you, I mean, streets, I didn't even think about the streets superintendent, critical for Public Works, and of course, the facilities maintenance manager, but we'll get a policy, we'll enforce it, we'll make sure that if this is the will of this body, we'll move forward with it. You won't have
And
any to
we
say.
vote today, then it goes to city council, then it becomes policy after that when? The next day?
That night.
All right, move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. I have one question, Kelly, if you don't mind. If, Gary, and I hope you don't mind me using an example, but if Gary is authorized to use his private vehicle to attend an event, and he's in a car accident, whose insurance does it fall on?
It's covered under his personal insurance if he's in his personal vehicle. Now, if he was injured, Roy, you might have to step in, but I believe he is covered under our workers' compensation if it's for a city event.
You're correct.
Let's just like on lunch break, there's been some worker comp law
Right.
firm, Roy, you want to talk about that just changed last year, was it?
Well, if he's on lunch break, then that wouldn't qualify.
Okay. Yeah.
If
And so-
he's,
He has to be furthering the business of the master, which is his employer.
Okay. So, but I noticed that wasn't in the policy so our employees don't understand, do that? I didn't know if that needed to be in the policy, that our employees know that if they opt to use their own vehicle and are approved, that falls under their insurance versus ours? Does that need to be there, or
Well,
is
that's
that understood? Or?
Well, I think that's why I wanted Roy to.
Well, it's already required in the policy. If you
I just didn't see it, and I didn't.
Yeah, if you drive your own personal vehicle, you are required to maintain minimum coverage.
I noticed it said you had to be required. It didn't say that it was the first insurance company in case of an accident. Is it required by state law?
No, it's certainly not. But we can make that modification just for clarity.
All right.
But the issue is, it may not be for convenience purposes, because as the policy is now, I can take my vehicle. I mean, I don't have a city vehicle, but I could take my own vehicle because I prefer to drive my own rather than a city vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And at which point, the travel policy, the attachments do speak to that you have to have your own insurance and that it will be covered. But on the modifications, I don't see that that has been reincorporated within it. So it's really up to the council whether we want to include that provision in. It's certainly not required, but would it be nice, of course, to alert those employees who are taking their own vehicle that, if they have an accident, it's going to be on them.
Mm-hmm.
For property damage, not personal injuries.
Sure.
So no, do I need to amend my motion to put that in there?
Yes.
Okay, make a motion to approve it as stated by the city attorney.
As amended.
As amended.
And I'll amend my second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussions or questions?
And we can correct and include the language for when it's ultimately adopted.
Okay.
On Monday night.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm sorry.
Just a question on workman's comp. With the changes in workman's comp, if they're leaving work and then travel to their home, it is no longer covered under workman's comp, even if they're in a now would be a city vehicle.
That's correct.
Same way would be if they're coming to work in a city vehicle, where before it would be covered, it's no longer covered under the new workman's comp.
If they leave City Hall to walk across the street to a vending machine or to Sonic or whatnot,
No
that's
longer
not going to be covered anymore, but it was previously.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other question that I would have for the attorney is, say an employee has been here 7 years, and one of the conditions of employment was that they drove a vehicle home, and we changed those conditions of employment. Is there anything? We're good.
No, there is no particular protection. HR Director Epperson had asked me to look into that for purposes of wage claims, Department of Labor regulations, and based on what I found, that wages for a benefit to be considered a benefit for purposes of any wage claim or any sense of entitlement, it has to be based upon a written agreement between the employer and the employee. Here, what we've had has been a policy that has prohibited
the use of those vehicles that was never followed. And so the agreement that is in writing is an opposite from what has actually occurred. So as a result, there was no agreement. So that is not a benefit. And secondly, since benefits have to be based on a policy, those can be changed at any time. The only time it becomes an issue is upon termination. Such, for example, you have a policy about sick leave. Well, you can change it at any time, accepting collective bargaining issues. You can change it at any time unless it's before it's accrued. But after it's accrued, then you're kind of stuck with it. With regard to vehicles, those are not the type of accrued benefits. They're sort of fringe benefits, and so they have to be based on a written policy, which had not previously existed.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was going to ask about these, the streets position and the planning director. The committee has done its due diligence to be sure that this policy is not going to cause an adverse effect on their job.
We did not know up until now, or I didn't up until now, that only 2 people were being excluded, that everybody else is still under the 10-mile range. That's something we didn't discuss, or at least I didn't.
Well, you're just trying to clarify a uniform policy for travel. I mean, you wouldn't, unless you asked that specific question, it wouldn't come up in your conversation, I don't think.
I was just curious. I didn't know if it does or doesn't affect them.
I
If
mean,
it doesn't, I mean, I think it may be fine, but I thought we should just ask.
Well, it affects 2 employees, right, Kelly?
Is that all?
It could affect others. I mean, those are the ones that we just know about because they sit at the staff meetings, we discuss these things, and these things come up at the staff meetings.
All right, may I ask a question then? If we move this on to Monday night, could we get some additional information? Because I don't think it was the intent of anyone on the committee, or I'll just speak for myself, to eliminate a lot of people, you know, who no longer had benefits. Back to what I said earlier, we did this because we were saying on paper that nobody was allowed to take city vehicles outside of the city limits. That was not occurring, not even close to occurring, and we were trying to clean that up. And in doing so, we tried to look at people who didn't use city vehicles and people who did use city vehicles, and we came to some agreements, which is what we put forward tonight. If there are concerns, you know, I think I would like to hear them between now and Monday, and I would like to know exactly how many people this would affect.
Yep. Kelly, could
We
you
do
get a
that?
list of the positions that are affected by the policy and get it to me, and I'll make sure you all get it, and so you can see the list. And then you said some concerns. You said something else.
If there are additional concerns that
Okay,
we've not
okay.
brought up.
Well, the only concern I have, you know, I want to be able to, you know, we just talked about it, you know, if there is an event, exigent circumstance, something that is out that does not fit, I want to be able to make the call. This policy, once we do it, you know, remember, we brought this to you because we want to clear up the policy. And so, you know, I want to be able to make that call. I don't want to, I understand policy, I understand why we have it, but I do not want to have a policy drive the content and then we end up having an exigent circumstance or emergency situation and we you know, create unintended consequence. But that's all I'm saying. I've said enough about it.
What if we just said duty event? They're on duty.
Does that get us there, Kelly? I'm not sure if it gets us there because the 10-mile portal interpretation is what.
No, that wouldn't address that.
Yeah, it wouldn't
No,
address
but if it's a duty event, that would take care of everything that's related to anything that's going to be city business. Whether they're setting up for a parade, taking down for a parade, whether it's dancing in the district, whether it's, you know, any of those things, if they're on duty, it's okay. Whether that's going to
I think that's inclusive of this event, right, Kelly?
My interpretation of that, although Mr. Johnson's interpretation or clarification of that makes it easier to understand as a duty event, But the portal to portal and the duty events are two separate items.
issues.
I just want to make sure that we're clear on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But the duty events does make sense to me. So we make sure that we're representing the city and not just there because we want to attend for personal business.
Right.
So we can move it forward, and if there are any other discussions, we can take care of that Monday.
Well, if we vote this in, then it's going to go on the consent agenda, and then we'll have to take it off. Is that not right, Mr. Tucker?
That's correct.
So can we just, can I ask to withdraw those motions and move this program with no recommendation to City Council?
I withdraw my motion
I'll withdraw my second.
to move
Good
to
idea.
Monday.
So do I need a motion to do that, or just,
Yes.
I need a motion to move with no?
Make a motion to move this item to Monday
And direct staff
And-
to get us the additional information.
and direct staff to get us some additional information.
Thank you.
I'll second that. You're welcome.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 8.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
Before we move on, these next 5 items, we got a little gregarious and put things on where they didn't really need to be. And so I'm requesting that items 9, 11, and 12 be stricken,
Okay.
and only 8 and 10 be considered. And the reason for that is items 9, 11, and 12 are contained within items 8 and 10.
I was a little confused, but we're good.
Do we need a motion?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. So we're on item number 8?
Consider
Thank you.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the defined contribution plan for the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund with an effective date of October 1st, 2015, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Epperson, you can confuse us again?
No, I'm going to make this pretty easy. A couple of months ago, I had come before you to recommend a change so we could go to the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund as one of the hopeful 2/3 of the voting cities to pass a daily valuation of the OMRF plans. This first ordinance encompasses all participants of the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund with the exception of the city manager. This makes for the daily accounting and daily pricing. It reduces the fees for the loans from $150 to $100 per loan that the employees get. Free online investment advice, access to a retirement advisor, statements mailed directly to the participants instead of the city distributing them. Transactions are more participant-driven, providing for a paperless activity. And then there's also bilingual assistance available. So I would recommend approval of this ordinance encompassing the joinder agreement and the master plan document of the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund for all participants except for the city manager.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
The motion carries. We're striking item number 9, so item number 10.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the defined contribution plan for the position of city manager for the Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund with an effective date of October 1st, 2015, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Epperson again.
Thank you again. All right, this is the same ordinance for all other employees. However, this ordinance specifically pertains to the city manager as he has his own plan under OMRF. Same types of daily valuations for the city manager as well. I recommend approval effective October 1st.
Mr. Brown, are you familiar with this and are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, just checking.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Gully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Leanne Langston.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, I think you have an introduction you would like
Yeah,
to make?
thank you. I want to call you Vice Mayor.
You can call me James if you want to.
But Deputy Mayor, we have Mr. Mark Bolding. He's our new emergency manager. He's replacing Jimmy Murray, as you know, who passed away here a few months ago. We're happy to have him on board. He is currently working in the police department per our reorganizational plan that we approved back in August, and working, I believe, for Deputy Chief Farmer. Is it Chief? Deputy Chief Farmer. And so, Mark, if you could just give us, a little background. This is, you're one of our senior guys here, and we want you to, I want them to meet you. I really do. And just
first, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of working for the city, and once again, contributing to my community. I am a city native. I graduated from Muskogee High School. I spent 30 years developing software. After that, I got into emergency management. I've been working for the state for the past 6 years. I've been in on every kind of disaster you can think of. I've been from one end of the state to the other, and I'm looking forward to bringing that knowledge and that back to my community and being able to contribute any way I can.
Well, welcome to the team.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Bates, I don't think anybody signed up to speak to us tonight. So seeing that, we are adjourned.
I would like to say,
Oh, I'm
Mark's
sorry.
already been helping me out as Director of Maintenance with Muskogee Public Schools, so he's well on the job. And I should have read
I feel sorry for him.
on a FEMA grant, and it was read the directions,
Okay.
Thank you.
we're gonna move on.